We're live.
Cats.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our next episode of Top Deck Heroes. With you as always, our hosts, Kevin Broberg,
Hi.
Matt Hughes,
Uh,
and myself, Sean O'Brien, with Rochester CCG. So tonight we've got some news. Our main story is going to be UFS Economics 101, basic introduction to the secondary market, and then of course, at the end, our announcements. So, in the news today, our big story this week is we have a new store. The new store, Allied Comics, which I believe is based out in Las Vegas, joined the online marketplace. We also have, in the last couple months, Legendary Wolf Games went live out of Omaha. We've got Rochester CCG in Rochester, Carte Blanc, who sells singles in Canada, and I think
They-
that's about it.
they sell Legacy too.
So,
Yeah, I
welcome
know
to
there's
the market.
there's one or two more shops out there as well, but those are the big players, I think. Those are people who actually post on the forums and try to be members of the community.
So, welcome to the market. I think we're at a point where definitely UFS can handle and support multiple stores,
Oh yeah.
and I think lots of good things are going to come of it as we get ready to discuss the secondary market. Now, what prompted me to move on to this topic tonight is with the new stores coming in, we're going to see some changes in prices probably. Something and some other things going on in the market are going to make things go up. It's going to make some prices go down. So prices going down is good for the players. Prices going up is good for business.
And hey, it's good for the players too, because I think a lot of the cards that are going up from out of stock to more than what they were priced when they were out of stock.
Mm-hmm.
So no one cares to update the prices on cards they don't have.
Right. And I think that's a lot of times why you'll see cards that have been out of stock for a while come back into stock at a higher price. Prime example I think I want to use is Trinity Geyser. I mean, that sat in our store for like $35 a piece for 6 months, and there were none. And so now, I mean, the market could handle $60 Trinity Geysers, as was proven once they were back in stock after 6 months. But let's break it down. So we're going to talk about the two markets in UFS. There are basically two markets.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely two markets. There's the primary market, which is buying sealed product, and there's the secondary market, which is interacting with singles, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Other players, other people who aren't the people who produce the game.
So over in the right hand side of your screen, that is a simple supply and demand graph. We're gonna be referencing that throughout the night tonight for those of you who want to keep up and pretend like we're learning something. So how the primary market works is that's where you go to your game store, you go to Rochester CCG, you go to Jasco Games website, and you purchase something that comes sealed in a box, in a pack, in a starter deck, anything like that. And so what you're always hoping when you open a booster box, we're going to say the market price is $72. Is you're hoping that every time you open a box, you're hoping that it has $72 worth of product in it, or you wouldn't buy it.
Yep.
And so when we say probably, that's an important word to know, because probably means on average what you'd expect. So
yeah, if you have a box where there's one ultra rare that's worth $80 and all the other ultra rares are worth $10, maybe that averages out to $60, but you still want to buy it, even though it's not actually on average $72, but it's worth the risk for you.
Mm-hmm. When you open a booster box, it's like gambling. And just like in the casino, some things you gamble on are more likely. You go to roulette, you bet on red or black, you got a little less than 50% chance of winning. That's your Darkstalker set, your new Mega Man set, stuff like that. And then sometimes, it's a bigger risk when you look at maybe some older sets like King of Fighters, Ruler of Time, that you need to open well in order to get your $72 value back. And people aren't rational. They like gambling. I like gambling. I gamble all of my money.
I'm rational.
Now,
Yeah, and an important part of the primary market is that, booster pack buying a booster pack is not really a good investment because it's usually you don't see booster packs for $3 on shelves. If you want to get the $3 price for a pack, you have to buy it in a box for $72, and that's like that's saving up some money. That takes some time to get together, and you're not guaranteed any return from that unless you need commons or uncommons or normal rares from the set or whatever. And so,
one
go ahead.
one thing to consider too is, if you are new to the set and you don't have a lot of it yet, a booster box is going to get you, normally, based on what I've opened, at least a play set of every common and half a play set or 2 copies of every uncommon on average.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of stuff to work with, and yeah, we're not saying that boxes are bad buys, but when we're talking about the economy of UFS, I think commons, uncommons, and even normal rares to an extent kind of just fall by the wayside. They're going to be available. You're not going to see skyrocketing prices on Pharaoh Shot or a card that Apple a Day is a better example because that doesn't sound like an ultra rare.
Right, unless something
Apple for you.
very unusual happens in the marketplace. Most of your rares are going to settle at a price, and your commons and uncommons aren't going to be big money cards under normal circumstances. And so, if you're looking to get cards, if you're looking to open your Skull Barriers, your Finale Rossos, when you open a box, it's risky because you roll the dice and pay $72 plus shipping or whatever the case may be. And if you're looking for one ultra rare, one specific ultra rare, chances are you're going to be disappointed because your chances of opening one specific ultra rare at a box is like 1 in 4, which not the best odds. So you can take that option, which if there are lots of ultra rares in the set that are valuable that people are seeking, is a great value because you get trade fodder to get the cards that you want, or you turn to the secondary market, which is your singles retailers, your traders, other stores, and individual players.
Yeah, the secondary market, as like in economic terms, it's everyone else who is engaged in exchanging UFS cards for money or for other cards or for
Store credit.
cars, store credit, whatever. That's the secondary market, includes all of that stuff. And so if we're talking about supply and demand, we're interested in everyone who cares about UFS cards for demand, and we're interested in everyone who has UFS cards for supply if they're willing to exchange them. Like if I say, yeah, I have 4 Skull Barriers, but they're in my deck and I'm never trading them, then that's not part of the supply curve. But,
Yeah, it's not on the market.
Yeah.
And so what happens, especially, things on release, is not everyone wants to spend $72 times, I think, like 14 boxes you need to get a play set of every ultra rare.
Yeah, that's a big investment.
Most people aren't willing to do that. And so,
Not even Jeffrey Kahn's willing to do that.
But the for the most part, the whole market's not interested in doing that. Stores
there'll be
do
a few
that.
people who do that. Stores will do that, absolutely.
Large play groups who share collections might do that, but normal players won't. So your options become trade and buy from stores at that point, or buy from other people.
And so when the set first comes out, too, let's say, some people won't even buy boxes at all, or some people will buy like 3 boxes and get like a few ultra rares to trade around with or whatever. But people will need a play set to build their decks. There are more and more cards that you only need like 2 of or whatever that you don't want to play a play set of. But at the same time, there's still always going to be ultra rares that are just really good cards you want to have a set of, or that you want to build your deck around. And so lots of people will need a lot of cards, so there's a very high demand.
Right. So if we look at our supply and demand chart in once again, the lower right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see the purple line is demand, the red line is supply. Where those 2 items cross is equilibrium price or market price. And so what happens, depending on things that can happen in the marketplace, the supply curve, the supply line will shift to the right if something happens that causes the supply to become available. So there's more of it. If the supply, and when there's a higher demand, not higher demand, but when there's a lower supply, the supply curve shifts to the left, and the equilibrium price climbs up. And then demand can move as well. So if a card is in high demand, more people want it, demand shifts to the right. And if people aren't interested in a card, demand shifts to the left. So they work opposite of each other. So that's basically how economics works anywhere, not just in UFS. Works with commodities like gasoline and gold. That's how economics works in our world. And so when a set first comes out, those two lines are moving. Demand is shifting to the right and supply is off to the left. So they're moving away from each other, and that equilibrium price is high. So when a set first comes out, ultra rares that people perceive are going to be valuable are going to be very expensive. People are going to want bigger trades for them. I've seen many times where Mark Wisniewski Slam goes out and has his blockbuster trades where these giant trades to get everything he needs. Or stores are going to have them listed higher on release because demand is high, supply is low. And so stores are only going to open a certain amount of boxes on release. I'm not going to disclose how many boxes we open, but there's an amount that will open and no more. And so supply can't keep up, which makes that supply shift to the left, the equilibrium price climbs.
Yeah, and as we're going to talk about, I mean, there's a certain point where, let's say we sell out of Skull Barrier on release. You know, it won't necessarily make sense for us to open more boxes just to get more Skull Barriers, even at that point with the release pricing, because if everything else hasn't sold out yet, we'd be opening boxes just for that one card.
Right, and it's not that often where you're going to want to chase down boxes where we've already discussed is you got about a 1 in 4 chance of getting a given ultra rare. So your chances of even as a store opening boxes to go for one card, it's not good value.
But then after the release weekend, as time goes on, gradually people will play with their deck and say, you know, I'm tired of these Skull Barriers. I want to move. I want to like play the fire symbol or something now. No use for the Skull Barrier anymore. I'm going to trade it away, and now that's supply, and so it moves which direction does the supply curve move?
Moves
so that
right.
increases. Yeah, I mean, I just forgot. It moves to the right, increases the supply, and thus lowers. You know, it takes the price down a little bit. So over time, the prices will naturally drop as people decide to put their cards back on the market.
And then after that initial release, you know, supply continues to increase, shift to the right, demand shifts to the left as demand goes down.
Yep. But
so
then
equilibrium price drops, and then tournaments start happening.
Yeah, tournaments start happening. For like the reason that we all play the game, the reason that ultimately people are buying all these cards isn't just to like play with their friends. You know, that would be something. But the reason we want to win games with our cards.
What if I just want to fill my binder? What if I just
all right. Then you're gonna buy 14 boxes and fill your binder up. That's gonna be you. You're not gonna be on the market at all.
So after the tournaments, I mean, and we see this every time there's a big tournament where cards frequently make their way into those top 8, top 16 deck lists. The best cards will be played frequently. That's how card games work. Nobody sets out in their card game for the most part and says, man, I really want to make wasted talent work in a deck. If you're playing competitively to win, you're going to be like, man, I saw a lot of copies of Skull Barrier. I need to get that into all my decks because that card's really good.
Yeah, you're going to want to play the very best cards that you can to give yourself the best chance of winning. And so that means, you know, and then your deck gets posted and everyone sees, wow, that card must be better than I thought it was. I should get me some of those.
Mm-hmm. And so when those cards are ultra rares, there's never enough around, ever.
Yeah, the demand spikes way up all of a sudden after that result,
and supply has
the ultra rare.
Supply really hasn't moved at that time, which brings that price up again.
And the supply was already maybe not quite enough, as we were saying. You know, you get 1 in every 4 boxes. You open X boxes. That's not very many play sets.
No. So low supply, high demand drives the prices up. And cards are a scarce resource. I mean, we know, you know, with Jasco Games having run out of product in the past, you don't know if you do try to trade away or if you're going to buy list, you don't know if that card you're trading away, if you're ever going to be able to get it back. And
Yeah,
if you
so you
are
see
able to get it back in the future, best case scenario, it's very expensive.
Yeah, so you see people who just, they have a rare card or a valuable card that they like, and they'll sit on it. They won't move. They won't be in a deck, and it won't be in their binder because they don't want to ever lose that card.
And so the secondary market responds to these things. And so stores will start cracking boxes because we think that players will crack boxes if they think they're going to get $72 value. And then stores will crack boxes if they think they're going to get enough value to pay for their costs, which we're not allowed to disclose. But anytime a store opens a box, they're taking a risk. Okay. So
Yeah, every box is a risk.
Jesse has a question. What card is the next Skull Barrier / Trinity Geyser? And before the show, Kevin and I were talking about this. If Warriors of the Night was to sell out sometime soon, and as far as the ultra rare from the set that I think is super powerful and people are going to want, I think it's Final Rosso.
That's certainly my favorite card.
I should look at the ultra rares and think about it.
Let's check this out. Yeah.
And as far as rares go, if the set goes the way of Neomax, where even rares are hard to come by, the power rare, or I think the Navos equivalent in Warriors of the Night, is definitely going to be S-Class Hunter. Card is a staple.
S-Class Hunter is a very, very good card.
Yep.
And it's already...
So
I haven't seen too many of those trade binders.
If this was Mad Money, I'd yell, buy, buy, buy on those cards right now.
I'm going to take a shot in the dark here. I think in the long run, it's going to be Dark Side Master.
I mean, that card's legit as well.
I don't know if we've seen that card put up any results yet, but I agree with you that it's got a lot of long-term potential. Another card I've heard that some groups have difficulty finding that are in very high demand is Hanya, and I can see why that card is a little bit savage if you're trying to, get in on someone with an early aggro turn.
Mm-hmm.
Breaker one's your whole day, and then if they God forbid they reversal you with a weapon, it's not gonna go well for you.
So we talk about how the secondary market starts to accommodate. They continue to open boxes, but once the market reaches a point where a store doesn't think they're going to get enough value out of a box to open it, they're not going to open them.
Yeah, as basically, ultimately, a booster box, like every card is worth the fraction of a booster box that it came from, minus the decline in price from people trading it away or whatever. If I could snap my fingers and destroy every copy of Final Rosso out there, then everyone would go that isn't in a sealed booster pack. People would go to their stores and buy boxes of Warriors of the Night, needing those Final Rossos, and so the price would be extremely high. It might even be more than $72 because you don't always get a Final Rosso in every booster box. But as long as things just went naturally, it'll used to be a fraction of $72.
Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that happens, especially with your older sets, sets that have been on shelves for a while, while you still have those chase cards, those one or two chase cards, if we use King of Fighters, for example, Leona Blade, Haryuken, and those cards themselves are actually declining in value now. But the rest of the set doesn't keep up as much as that particular set's chase cards. Because there are thousands of copies, I'm sure, of Astute Observer out in the wild.
Yeah, and that's an important tournament card for competitive players. But, everyone who played the game back when that set came out, they got their copies of Astute Observer when they were just cracking boxes, cracking packs. And so on release weekend, that card might have been worth $5 or $6 or $8. But now, the demand is just very low for that card. And so people will still... People, if you crack a box of King of Fighters to try to get a Kunoichi no Mai, it's a much worse proposition than it is to crack a box of Warriors of the Night, because Warriors of the Night still has rares that are in demand.
Right. And every set, I mean, and I know our design team works really, really hard to make all the cards playable, but there's always going to be rares in a set that aren't playable at that time, because there are so many things that also affect the market. Set stuff rotates out. Cataclysmic Force just rotated away. Astute Observer is no longer as valuable of a card because you don't have to protect yourself from a tournament staple that trades 1-for-1.
Yeah.
I'd say another
So-
thing from design wise that can affect the market is or affect certain values on cards is there are certain cards that are, if you look at it close enough, are designed to be an answer to something that was dominating the meta probably a few months ago, and maybe they were already rotated or banned. So
Yeah, I know I was talking to someone about how, BB Hood looks like she's kind of a hate, she exists kind of as a nod to Mourning the Lost. She makes Mourning the Lost worse. And that's just a bit less of a problem than it used to be.
Yeah, you're not going to get Mourning the Lost very often now.
Hey, she's still great and extended.
And so, not only do stores have to respond to changes in the secondary market, but players as well, because they're part of the market. So, cards sitting in decks and binders from the release, anything that is people are willing to sell or get rid of or trade, that becomes the supply on top of all the sealed booster boxes still.
Yeah, at some point, the guy out there who has a bunch of Trinity Geysers sitting in his deck that he plays every week, but he's thinking about moving on to something else. At some point, people start saying, "Yeah, Rochester sold their $60 Trinity Geysers in 3 seconds." That gets him. He's like, "Huh, I wonder what I could get for these." And eventually the price is high enough where it pulls them out of his deck and into the market.
And either it goes out in the market either once again by either them selling the Trinity Geysers themselves or selling into a store buy list. And
Yeah,
so,
we would hope that just for the sake of the market, for the sake of everyone having the cards that they want, that they go to someone who will then help move them around and keep the cards circulating, keeping the blood flowing through the body of the card game.
that being said, people should not have difficulty finding buyers for Trinity Geyser.
Hey, I think I remember I saw Phil Birch posted on Facebook. He was trying to sell his Trinity Geysers, and he didn't get any buyers at all because Drew Maffei immediately undercutted him.
Oh wow!
400 to 380 for the playset, I think.
Yeah, that's way. So, what stores can do to help keep product in stock is offer a buy list. And so, what happens then is, and I know for Rochester, I don't know which of my competitors have started doing this, but I have a list on my site that says any of these cards, I'm buying them.
Yeah, Rochester CCG has the best buy list feature by a mile out there. Other stores will say, "Yeah, just send us a list of cards that you have, and we'll let you know what you need." On Rochester CCG, you can know exactly the quantity that we need and exactly the price we'll pay for them online with the same inventory features that we have for our normal cards.
And if you decide you want to trade in and not get cash and you want to have store credit for later, you get a 20% bonus, which hopefully means you'll sell us your cards and come back and buy some more. So, if you want to help keep prices down, don't hoard your cards, sell them in.
But Sean, the addictive ink. That's why
But
I
you
need
need
them all.
more addictive ink. Your ink can transmute into more ink. Different ink. New ink.
So, that's UFS economics in a nutshell. Now, weird things happen in the market sometime. Right now, we're experiencing, for some of our sets, our older sets, that the market's saturated. There are thousands of copies of Astute Observer out there, and not many people need them right now, so the price goes down on those things. And there are fewer copies of cards like Champion of Muay Thai, which is a $7 rare because people need to fight speed. Speed is really good right now in UFS.
Yeah, and I think this is just an inevitable consequence of the cards being on the market for a long enough time, and with new cards coming out to replace some of them, because there's only so many copies of Champion of Muay Thai out there, and it doesn't make sense for anyone to buy a box to get a Champion of Muay Thai, even though they will usually. That's a tenth of the price of the box, and the rest of the set just isn't worth enough to make that make sense necessarily.
A lot of it comes down to what do you need. I mean, if you're getting into the game and you've got some cash to burn, buying a couple booster boxes is going to be a good value.
Oh,
You're going
absolutely.
to get the commons and uncommons you need, and you're going to get a pile of rares and a few ultra rares. So, but if you already have everything you need, but you need another copy of Champion of Waitai, it's not very tempting to open a box of King of Fighters. Just like if everybody's got their everything else and stores just need Champion of Waitai and they know that's the only card from the box that's going to sell,
Yeah,
they're not interested in opening boxes either. It scales up.
that's a rough situation for sure. I know. I saw in some discussion the other day about one of the Calgary players brought up that their play group is extremely open with their cards, and I think it might have been Kevin Toy Soldiers said that he just gave away his skull barriers on the set release. I think he was feeling bad about it. But I mean, that's the UFS community is really open. So if you actually find yourself in that situation where you just need one more card, go out and ask people and say, hey, just for this one event, can I borrow one?
Yeah, we're usually pretty good at making it happen. Now, so that's the one extreme of the set of the market where there's just too much of everything.
Yeah.
And then we look at the other end of the market where there's nowhere near enough. So Neomax, there is no more. I mean, allegedly there are boxes available down in Poughkeepsie, New York for $200 a piece.
They might just be doing a tournament for that, just to buy in.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
But
I might travel to go to that.
You can't log on to Rochester's website and buy 5 boxes of Neomax. There are no more. So we go back to our supply and demand curve, and the supply its shift is as far left as it could go. There's no more, and that drives that market price up. And the rare cards in Neomax are extremely hard to find. Trinity Geyser is at least a $60 card. It may even be worth more. So that and that's what happens at the other end of the spectrum. And it's not even just that one card in that particular set.
No, I mean off the top of my head, I know Devos is something like a $20 normal rare these days, and that's like the accepted market price, and it moves at $20. Correct me if I'm wrong. And there's plenty more cards. I know I was talking last week. We talked to Fernando, and I suggested Homura Hotogi for a Time Man deck. And I had to qualify it like, well, if you can find any, because it's kind of an ultra rare from Neomax. And that card hasn't top 8 at a tournament as far as I know. I think Christine might have top 8 with something, like one of our Empire Circuit events with a Time Man deck within it or something. But it sees next to no competitive play, but it's still really hard to find just because of Neomax and Neomax features.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be the case with Neomax as long as the set's legal. And we continue to grow because we've seen, if I had to guess, I would say we may have grown this year so far in UFS by about 60 to 70%. There are 60% more players now, I think, than there were at the end of 2014. And those players all need cards. They need their tournament staples. They need Caught Red-Handed. They need Astute Observers. They need Trinity Geysers.
They need Chin's Low Punch with Breaker One. Like, it's not even all exciting, thrilling cards. That you just need solid role players, and sometimes the best role players are from sets that are hard to find. You need Childhood Sweethearts.
You need Caught Red-Handed.
Sober Freak, the card that won Worlds this year.
And then that goes back to what I always found in UFS is we are hoarders, I think. I mean, I know I fall into that trap, and I own a store of like, well, geez, if I go down to less than a certain number of this card, am I ever going to get it back?
And you can see the hordes on his shelves right there. That's the piles of gold coins, and
I don't have a dragon to protect it, which is probably for the best since it's cardboard. But if a year ago, I mean, I'm sorry, if a year ago if you had a set of Trinity Geysers in your binder and you traded them away, what are the chances you can get them back without for any price? And that's the real tricky part about Neomax is. In a lot of cases for that set, it's not even how much you're willing to pay; it's if you can find them.
Yeah, the card's a myth sometimes.
And I'm sure someone's going to ask, "Well, why don't you just buy list Trinity Geysers for $100 a piece?" Which sounds like a great idea, except I think a lot of us experienced back with Tides of Vengeance, where a couple of cards were banned because there weren't enough of them. And there was a justification for banning Kaplow is there are not enough Kaplows, so we're going to ban it.
I still say that wasn't a real justification.
Yeah, I think that was a. I mean, I'm not gonna like estimate what fraction of it was availability concerns, but that card was not healthy for the game.
Yeah,
Ooh, it
I feel
was
like that line was just tacked on as an excuse.
But it's something you have to as a player you have to consider. As a store, I have to consider. I mean, how would you feel as a player if I buy listed a card for $100, you bought it from me for like $150, and then they're like, "Oh, card's not legal anymore," either because it was too good or there's not enough of them. It makes it risky, and so I think that really, once again, triggers those hoarder instincts of, if I get rid of it, then I've got to buy it back when it becomes good, and then what if they ban it? And I just keep losing value every step of the way.
Yeah, it can be really harrowing to try to trade with these ultra rare cards. And, at the same time, you can be the guy who's making bank on it if you play your cards right,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I guess, kind of the thrill and the terror of UFS all at once.
So Luchador768 does bring up another good point about how they did actually go and reprint stuff like Kaplow and all the Tides of Vengeance stuff.
Yeah, that did happen.
That really is a bad excuse.
I'm just saying what I saw in print.
Yep.
And I mean, just reprint it is a scary option too. Because
yeah, I mean, if we're talking
that's
about
almost
people,
as bad as banning it. If a card becomes a $60 card because it's really difficult to find, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we're just gonna print 1,000 of them.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if magic is a 4-letter word on this show or not, but I mean, there was the Chronicles thing where like they almost went the way of Beanie Babies, and had every store just completely stopped carrying them because they printed too many copies of Nicol Bolas 10 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever.
Almost 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel old.
Jesus. Ancient history, but when you
fair-
reprint a card that someone bought for $150 and now the market price is $20, that person feels like you just ripped $130 out of their wallet.
Mm-hmm. And then makes it risky for if you feel that your game is going to be constantly reprinting cards that are extremely valuable, then it puts you back in that risky situation of, is the card going to get banned? It's almost the exact same thing as, well, do I spend $150 now to find out next week it's going to be available?
Well,
And hey, God,
to be
let's
fair,
be honest here, though.
They've done that twice already in this game, and there wasn't a real complaint about it.
And let's be completely honest. I know a different game where you constantly ban cards and errata cards and reprint cards. It's called Yu-Gi-Oh, and I heard it's a little
That's
popular.
a 4-letter word.
Well, it's 3 words though, so
No,
it starts with Yugi. It ends with the letter after N.
I mean,
But,
I'm not sure how our market would respond to just wholesale reprinting cards that have become valuable. Because it's good for some people. It's good for a lot of people, and it's bad at the same time. I mean, I would love to be able to sell 200 copies of Trinity Geysers for $20. That'd be amazing. I don't think any of my competitors would complain about being able to sell 200 copies of a card at 20 instead of 4 copies at 60.
And really, if we're talking about, should we ban it? Should we reprint it? It's not about, who's making money on it at that point. It's about who, about the health of the game as a whole, about the health of the community as a whole, about, if we're talking about reprinting Trinity Geyser, is it more important to protect the feelings of the people who just bought them and paid too much now after the reprint? Or is it more important for people to have fun with the cards?
It's a tightrope.
I think that's the question to ask. Yeah, it absolutely is.
And I think, though, that doing reprints, as special event promos, like they did with Sagaki offering, and then with Templar in the past, I think that's a good way to reprint things, because they're different, so that's going to add value to them. And it puts a small select amount of them back into the pool, so it lowers the price a bit, but might not drastically.
Yeah, I think what they did with Templar is exactly right.
Yeah.
Because, back before the reprint, Templars were a $35 to $40 card.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course of a year, they gave out copies of them at Worlds, Nationals, and at PTCs, and the card's now settled around $20, which I think that's much better. I mean, it's better profit wise for sure that I can now sell 50 copies of Templar at 20 instead of 10 copies at 50, 10 copies at 40. It makes more sense. It's better for people in the game because they are able to come in, get the cards they want, and actually build a deck. I had a conversation at Worlds this year with a player who said that one of the big hurdles for him to play UFS is card availability. Is he makes a deck list from UFS Ultra of cards he thinks are going to be great in this deck he wants to build, and then he just can't. The cards aren't available.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's really frustrating because a lot of other card games I've played, you can get any card in Magic for a price.
Yeah, and there are people who out there who make a living or whatever, or whose whole thing is they collect cards that you actually can't do that for. Of which there's a list on some website and it's 100 cards long, and it's like, yeah, here's Richard Garfield's card that he proposed to his wife with. Like, why does anyone have that? I don't know, but there's one out there. And in UFS, like, we don't have those cards. We have actual just normal cards.
Yeah. So those are the difficulties. Those are the oddities, kind of the oddities in our market right now.
And I think that'll work it out over time, and as more stores pick up the game, no one knows how big our print runs are or how big Magic's print runs are, but I'm sure we're a small fraction of them. If there's 1 million copies of a card out there, it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be a lot less likely for it to be unavailable at any price,
right?
Regardless of how much demand there is for that card.
And if you're a player sitting there right now asking, well, how do I help get rid of these oddities? Some of the oddities we can't do anything about. Neomax, it's right out. We can't do anything about it. But cards that are in high demand, that are expensive, that are hard to find, one of the best ways to help with that is to just open product. I know here in Rochester, we do tournaments every week. Everybody chips in $5. We buy product from the store, and we open pack. We open at least 3/4 of a box every week. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I mean, yes, we've got the store, and so I've always got the cards I need. But, I mean, Hughes, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the most part, you guys don't lack for cards.
No.
Because you're getting new cards into your collection all the time, and then those cards you get, you can trade if you need something.
Yep.
So that's what I recommend for players to do on a local level to help with the availability issue is just open more packs. Even if it's just a couple bucks every week into the tournament, there's a prize pool. You get to have fun playing UFS. You get your promos, and you might get lucky and open a very good card. And if you don't need it, send it out to the marketplace.
Yeah, trade it locally, and if no one wants it locally, ship it out to a store.
And I mean, everybody wins in that way. And stores are happy if they're moving product. I mean, that's the primary market. So if your store doesn't have singles, as long as they're moving product off the shelves, they're going to be happy. They're going to buy more. They're going to want you in their store playing UFS. So it's a win-win. So buying sealed product, if it's practical and you can do it, or even if just for your tournaments, that's how we help the crisis. And
Absolutely.
so we talked, I think, at the beginning of the episode, and we talked a little bit about the new stores. And what does that do to the secondary market?
Well, I think to me, the number one thing they do is that they have more cards in inventory. I mean, when's the last time we had a Trinity Geyser in stock, Sean? It's been months.
Yeah, before the ones I got from the player in Oneida had been 6-8 months at least.
Yeah, and then we got in from a buy in a coincidence, but I know someone bought the Legendary Wolf happened to have some in stock when they opened up their site, and someone, I think one of the West Coast players, scooped those up. I saw on the forums.
I think one of them scooped it up, and I scooped a couple up for my personal collection.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, by the way. I've been wanting to build a Geyser deck recently.
It's still sitting on my desk.
Oh man. Solid
Do
auto.
I have any random cards to flash? The better card. Rain
Real-
Flush.
We can't see it.
Okay, I have to
All
wait
right,
30
you guys
seconds.
can't see it. Ah,
Yeah, technology.
So,
But
yeah.
that's the number one thing to me is that there's just more cards that are available for you to buy.
Mhm.
When Rochester's out of stock, there's somewhere else you can look. But you should always look at Rochester first.
But there's more options, which is good because if Rochester's out, that means that Legendary Wolf might have it. If they're out, the new place in Vegas, who I already forgot, Allied Comics might have it. And hopefully, with more stores in the marketplace, when that player I talked to at Gen Con goes to build his deck, he may have to go multiple places, but he's going to get, hopefully, what he needs to actually build the deck he wants to play and have fun playing UFS. And with more stores cracking boxes, that increases supply, which is going to drive prices down.
Yep. And at the same time, I mean, I don't know if this is accounted for in the supply and demand curve, but the stores want to be the person you buy your cards from, and so they'll undercut each other. They'll say, "Oh, you've got this card listed for $30. I think I'd be happy selling it for $29." And then that's just how prices move down.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an effect of supply being higher.
Yep.
Is if one store thinks they can sell Shiranui no Mais at $15 and they can make a profit, and somehow a lot of them become available, then the price of that card is going to drop because I don't want, I mean, from a business standpoint, I don't want one of my competitors taking all of my customers because all of my customers who need Shiranui no Mai is going to buy from them and buy the other things they need at the same time. My prices are going to have to go down to meet them if I want to keep my customers. And so more stores is going to mean the prices of some items are going to go down. You tired there, big guy?
Yeah, I think the pasta's settling in from dinner. I had Five Guys burgers and fries for lunch, and I had a lot of fries, and I think they made me really sleepy.
So
pardon me.
That I think the new stores are great for the market. It's great even though I control a larger portion of the market before. If more players have more accessibility to UFS, their friends are going to start playing, and the market's going to grow.
That's what we really want at the end of the day.
A one-store market is not healthy. That's bad for economics. It's because eventually, especially when it's not like I would have a monopoly on gasoline where everybody has to get gasoline. That'd be like in a world where you can put diesel in your car. It's like, well, forget him. I'm not going to buy gasoline. I'm going to buy diesel, or I'm going to put water in my car because somebody else is going to have something similar, and that could kill UFS. If there's such little supply, why not go play Force of Will? Why not go play Magic? So more stores, more product. It's good for everybody. It's healthy for the game. It's going to give us longevity. So
plus, I mean, God forbid something would happen to you, Sean. I mean, having more stores on the market means that we have some redundancy in case someone decides to quit or something.
Right. So before we move on to announcements, we're going to talk a little bit about the decks we're building for this week. We have a fun challenge here in Rochester this week where everybody in our play group has to build decks consisting of cards that are valued at less than $5 on RochesterCCG.com. Puts a little bit of a restriction on what you can do.
Just to show off, I decided to play as many ultra rares as I could in my deck.
As many cheap ultra rares as you got?
Yep.
Now, we did make a couple of quality of life bans. We are not allowing Gemini Man.
Yeah, but we are allowing characters that might be worth more than $5. So you play like Snake Man or something if you want.
Yeah, your starting character is the only card over $5 you're allowed. If for some reason you wanted to play JJ and then get thrown out of the tournament because it is standard.
JJ would be so good right now. Can you imagine?
My deck I played
oh.
last week is actually legal.
Oh,
I
you're
went
gonna
through
play a
and checked.
Wing Slash, and it's gonna deal 1 damage. Okay, continue. Etten cells. Oh, that starts at -1. In fact. Oh, come on. JJ'd be so good. Can I play JJ?
He's not legal in this format.
Oh, you're gonna Skullman enhance? No.
Can I?
You should build something new for this week.
I'm playing the game called Job this week.
Guess what? I play every week.
You are in the wrong conversation to play that card, sir.
I got too many things to do.
Well, right now my plan is to build up some sort of Felicia. I have no idea what it's going to do yet, and I'll probably panic Friday afternoon between like 5 and 5:45 and register a starter deck. Because I mean, you've got the architect, the whole package, and the millionaire. The millionaire doesn't know what to do without his money.
Hey man, you could subcontract it out to Toy Soldiers and play the Pauper upgrade, Felicia. I remember we were talking. Oh, yeah, that's the Luminous Illusion, Felicia. That's right. That deck's sweet.
So we know Hughes is going to play Ava again because he sucks.
He's a slut.
I'm most likely to play Felicia. Kevin, what's on the docket for you?
I'm playing Skullman.
Like, the only other option is Felicia for me to build.
Matt, why don't you
I
play
said,
Billy?
another option. Why don't you
I
play
am not
Crash
going to play
Man?
Billy. Stop bringing up these awful characters.
Why
It
don't
was
you play
suggested
Crash
in the
Man?
chat.
See, I would play Billy, but
Yeah.
I have to play Billy. I
He's
need
trolling
Dancing
me.
Flash.
He's trolling me because we had a gigantic argument on how I was trying to explain to him why Billy is bad. And he understood that, but he just wants to make people miserable.
You could play Crash Man, the deck you were supposed to play last week.
No.
You
I'll
could build
try
a
and
deck
build
that
something different, but I'm being told from behind me, Rikuo.
Ooh.
Wait, isn't Chrissy building Rikuo?
I think she might be.
Oh, okay.
Rikuo's beast, son.
He's spicy.
I know.
Well, she
I had
can't-
some
like,
ideas for him when I saw him at Origins.
You can't play Conch Blast, which really sucks because 12 damage Conch Blast is kinda okay.
Oh,
I've heard.
Conch Blast is worth more than $5?
6 and 7, buddy.
Oh, okay.
Womp womp.
Womp, 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 womp.
So next week I'd like to report back on how our poor decks worked out for us.
But
So should I play the 90 card version of my deck or the 60 card version of my deck?
Probably the 60 card version because I think that's more in line with the spirit of the competition.
Yeah, if my deck costs $400 on rosterccg.com because it has $104 cards. Ha ha! Doesn't make sense.
But even if I do end up building something other than Ava, I will because after they goaded me into building it the other week, and it did pretty well. It's going to be our first video deck tech that we do. That'll be being put
That's
up later
exciting.
this week. So watch for that, people.
So how wrong were you about Ava on a scale of 1 to 10? Perhaps 1 to 8 might be more appropriate.
I'd say like 4 or 5. She can be very easily disrupted, and if you get disrupted, you straight lose.
Yeah, how was Roy?
Like, especially if you go in very hard. Like, it's a very hard deck to play against something that has disruption. Especially if they're disruption and have a high vitality. If they're 7 hand size, they don't have anything to easily stop you though. You roll them. Like, there was some people I played against, I just didn't even give them the ability to interact with me at all, and I just felt like a dick. Like, it was one of the new players too. I'm just like, I'm sorry.
I mean, at least
Why
you
do you gotta
weren't
be such a Richard?
at least you weren't turn 1 killing the new guy like you did 2 weeks ago.
I didn't
Or
kill him on
whatever you
turn
did.
1. I put him to like 7 with 0 foundations. I put Sean to 1 on well, I was like turn 5, but I had 0 foundations because multiple
then I
self
killed you.
destructs happened.
After a self-destruct.
Self-destruct was so good in Roy. I gotta talk about that deck a little bit. I'm gonna go
You
off
mean it
script.
was so good in Gemini, man?
So, last week we had to do our selected deck challenges, which I'd like to remind everyone that Hughes was supposed to have played Crash Man.
Yeah. Okay, you agreed to it.
I
Well,
felt
no, he
rules-
agreed to let you play Crash Man instead of Cutman, who was the original choice.
and then for some reason I agreed to let you play Ava.
it worked
So-
out.
My assignment was to build Roy. Now,
You signed it to yourself, but yeah.
for those of you
He's
who
your boy.
Roy's my boy. I played the hell out of the old Roy. I made people really mad. I doodled all over him, turned him into Vladimir Putin, just like the new one. And so I played my version off of Evil, and with a lot of really good effects. I liked Self-Destruct was really good in that deck whenever I felt things got out of hand. and my opponent was readying too many foundations. I said, okay, we're going to start over again. I ran a lot of the main combo of the deck was to go Crowbite into Maxima Laser, because Crowbite has stun 3 for Roy at the price of commit a foundation, and gives your opponents checks -1. It destroys a foundation if it hits. And Roy, if you can actually, he changes zone if you want to on his enhance as well to give stun 3. But high's usually a pretty good zone to be on, except for low.
Sean, I think this new Roy should actually be called Dmitry Medvedev.
What?
It should be Dmitry. Instead of, it's not Vladimir Putin again, but now Vladimir Putin's in the presidency, and now the premier is Dmitry, his protege. It's different, but it's the same.
Okay. And so what I would do is I would, commit the foundations I needed to pass Cam Newton and Crowbite, bounce the committed cards to my hand, and use kind of a secret card called a Beast of Prey. It's a secret because no one's played it because it's so bad. It says, F flip, your next foundation you play this turn ignores progressive. So I'm able to play out cards after my Maxima Laser at no progressive difficulty, pass the turn after messing you up a bit with most of my staging area ready. And that's kind of what the deck did. And after game 1, if I had the opportunity to go first, I built a sideboard at like 5:35 for my 6 o'clock tournament, where I just crammed in 4 S-Class Hunters and 4 Gemini Man. And Gemini Man Self-Destruct had not realized how good that was. Blowing up the world when all your attacks get +4 speed is really, really good.
The dream, boys.
So
yeah, you challenged me to play Terry, and I played Terry. I had fun with the card Key Aura, because if you play a slam and then you Key Aura it, and then you can play another attack, and you already have your card you already have the card lined up for Terry's ability to give it +1/+3. And I played a lot of Magnet Slams, was the plan of the deck that I realized was much better than just like trying to spam them with slams in the first place. And it kind of worked out, but I played all mirrors twice, and those were kind of... I played 2 all mirrors and got a bye, so it wasn't a very exciting tournament for me.
And Hughes, we already talked about what you played. So next week we'll report back on what we did for the Cheap Deck Challenge. We'll see if Hughes decided to do something different, which... let's take a poll here. Kevin, what do you think? Do you think he'll do something different? Maybe. Hughes, what do you vote?
Depends if I have to work Friday.
Ooh.
And I'm going to guess no.
We got 2 maybes and a no. Things aren't looking good.
But we'll see. Maybe we'll give Hughes a treat if he comes through and builds something new as part of the August Casual Deck Challenge month. We'll see. So let's do our announcements so we can get this wrapped up for the night. Alrighty, so events coming up. The St. Louis PTC is this weekend out in Collinsville, Illinois at the Dizzy Dugout. So the first event after rotation of Champ Card Block 1, we'll see where the format's going to land. So that's exciting.
First event with Roy Legal.
Roy's my boy.
We have a favorite for the champion?
If I was to pick who was going to win this weekend, I'm actually going to go with Robert.
What?
Robert.
You're insane. You're insane.
I think
I'm gonna go with Dimitri.
I'm gonna take the one that is actually the most likely, just because, you see the tier discussion thread where it says, the best character is the one that it's easiest to find a good build of, but everyone can be anyone can win a tournament, but this character is the easiest to build. Is Skullman. Because it's you can give Skullman a ham sandwich and he'll draw the lettuce out of it and discard it, and then he'll put in some bacon and upgrade that thing, like put some nice mayo on it, make it a really nice ham sandwich. He'll kick your ass with it.
So the picks for the tournament are Skullman, Dimitri, and Robert. I mean, I like. It's like a straight, it's like a descending line of
of
getting worse. Alrighty.
Hey, man, Robert's
a lot of
real.
people are
You know,
gonna
Ryan Field likes
complain,
Robert.
if a lot of people are going to complain about never hopeful, he's a pretty good answer to never hopeful.
And so, as part of our second poll for the PTC this weekend, what is the card that people are going to want banned after it?
Never hopeful.
Kevin? Not that you want banned, but you think people are going to complain about.
No, no one's gonna complain about anything. It's gonna be sunshine and rainbows
And
and unicorn.
I'm going to vote for Ever Hopeful. So that's 2 votes for Ever Hopeful and 1 vote for No One's Going to Complain, because that's ever happened in UFS history.
That's 2 votes for Ever Hopeful and 1 vote for unicorns.
All right, so after the St. Louis PTC, we've got the Michigan PTC. September 26th in Warren, Michigan at Eternal Games. That's always a good event. We're going to play some whirly ball, I'm sure. And Michigan's always extremely competitive. I think between St. Louis and Michigan, we're going to have a pretty good idea of what the meta is going to be like until the next set comes out.
Hey, we'll have a good idea until the Poughkeepsie PTC on October 24th, only a month later.
We did change venues for that. It is no longer at the Dragon's Den. It's going to be at Champion.
Champion Card
Is the name of
Collector.
the- Champion Card Collector. That's going to be a good time. That's also going to be our first stop on the Empire Circuit for 2015 to 2016, where players are competing for an extra plane ticket. So good luck.
Yes, this year the plan is that the first place after the first place on point standing gets a plane ticket, and then 2 through 7 play out the draft for the second slot.
So
Is that right?
that's correct. So there are going to be 2 plane tickets given out on the Empire Circuit this year, plus the plane ticket for the Poughkeepsie PTC, and then hopefully another plane ticket in Rochester for the Rochester PTC next year.
All right.
So
I gotta finally go to all of them this year, instead of just barely squeaking into the draft.
See if you can dethrone me as the 3-time points champion. I think.
Yeah,
No, I'm twice running because I remember Tim won the first one.
like I always
By,
get a
uh,
decent amount of points, considering I always miss like 3 events.
Hey, well, we give you one back for free.
All right, and so the last event we're talking about right now is the Rochester CCG 2K on November 7th in Rochester. It's going to be a great time. We got our own space, pretty much a park to ourselves.
Yeah.
We got a lodge that can hold up to 140 people.
I just realized it's going to be in the middle of autumn. Do you think we'll still have leaves on the trees? Maybe
Depends.
November.
It's November 7th. We could have a foot of snow on the ground.
Hey,
It could also be like
it's a real Rochester event.
It could also be like 70 out.
It could also be like 70 out. You never know with Rochester.
Never know. There could be a foot of snow on the ground, like off in a corner, and also be 70 out because it snowed the previous day. You never know.
So that event, it's going to be a good time. There's going to be food available at the venue for purchase. There's going to be some amount of free beer. Probably
It's going to be a keg, right?
Yeah.
Like,
So there's going to be beer. I know lodging is available for folks who are trying to travel on the cheap. I think Hughes has got space in his basement. The Rochester, the space at Sawyer Street where I live is filling up pretty quickly. So if you plan to stay here,
get a hotel.
yeah.
Boom. We got plenty of hotels in the area.
And so that's going to be a good time. And we have one last announcement for tonight that I've been authorized to make. Jasco Games has sold out of Warriors of the Night. There is no more.
Darkstalkers.
I love if we were talking earlier about if something were to happen with the supply of Warriors of the Night, the purely hypothetical scenario.
That's called foreshadowing. And so on that bombshell, we're going to call it a night, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.